Welcome back to Open Line, talking about gun laws in Tennessee. John Harris, Tennessee Firearms Association, is with us, talking about several different things. As we went to the break, we were talking about constitutional carry. That would be doing away with gun permits. A caller uncomfortable by that. Others obviously support it. Let's just go back to the phones. Let's go to Marilyn. Hello, Marilyn.
Yes.
Hi, what's on your mind?
Okay, I just first want to say I entirely disagree with what the guest is saying. First of all, the studies that he says that there have been conducted, are they geographically and economically and size-wise similar to Nashville as far as comparing the states or the cities that do not have permits anymore as to Nashville, as well as because I'm from Detroit, and you cannot compare Detroit with Nashville. However, Detroit has a right to carry, and they are nowhere near safer than we are in Nashville because of the demographics of the area, the amount of people. So, you are a lawyer, you had to be trained. You can't kill anybody with your law practices. But someone with a gun who is untrained, you're more concerned about the permits than you are about the people that carry the guns that have the right skill to use them. Because I guarantee you, people are going to start saying right to carry guns in people's pockets and going to panic, because I would be one of them. If I was in a theater and I saw someone with a gun, I'm going to panic.
Right. Okay. All right. So she brings up a lot there.
Yes, she does.
The concern about the study, first of all, you're citing a study that says it doesn't make anybody any safer. We've had two callers now question that. Go through your response to her call there.
Well, I mean, it's not just one study, because when we have these hearings and the testimony that comes out for and against constitutional carry or the permitless carry in the vehicles in the General Assembly, they get testimony from multiple sources, and we bring in experts from other jurisdictions to testify about the demographics of gun ownership and crime and related topics. But what you see is, it's not just some academic study where they're saying, Detroit versus, New Orleans, or Detroit versus Washington, D.C., or Nashville. These are all population studies, given the fact that we have had states in excess of 40 years. Vermont, for its entire history as a state, has never required permits. You could carry there from day one. And so we've got decades of data that shows these states, require no permits, and you could carry openly. These states, including Vermont, Maine, Kansas, Arizona, Alaska, Wyoming, require no permits, open or concealed. And what's clear is, when you look at the data concerning crime statistics in the states that do and don't have permitting systems, is that there is no statistically significant difference to suggest that having a permitting system with a fee or a background check or even training makes those states any safer or more dangerous.
When you look at that data, would we be the largest state that would that would allow constitutional carry? Some of those you mentioned are smaller states, Wyoming, Vermont. Do you think we would become then the largest state should this go through in this next legislative session?
Well, Arizona's population-wise is pretty close. We're only about 7 million people in Tennessee, so geographically we might be good size, but population-wise we've got we're in the middle of the pack. But
and then, so you don't think that's
Kansas? You got St. Louis and
Kansas City.
In Kansas City, and
her other point. All right, you're in a movie theater or you're in a situation. Someone thinks they see a gun. Maybe a permit holder. You at least have the comfort of thinking they've been through some training. If people just don't have to get that, there's no training, and does it lead to bad things? What? That's her concern. What about that?
Well, And I go back to the fact that whether we have the permit or not, if you see someone wearing a gun in a movie theater, you don't know if they have a permit or not, because they don't have to wear it, like a badge. And in 30 states, if they're going to carry without a permit, they have to carry it openly. And, you know, Kentucky's one of them. You know, Alabama, Virginia's, Mississippi, none of them require permits for open carry. And I know Kentucky's been that way probably at least 30 years because I've been going up there. My in-laws live there, so I've, you know, been commuting a lot. And what you find is as people get used to the idea that citizens have guns and can wear them openly just like police officers do, the fear, the unjustified fear that just because the person has a gun that they're going to pull it out and start shooting it goes away. You know, our group meets at the Golden Corral out in Hermitage once a month, and we'll have 50 to 100 people there, and probably 10 to 15 of them are openly carrying their firearms in the restaurant. You don't see mamas grabbing their kids and running out the door and screaming because we've been there for a couple of years doing this. And it's like it'd be no more unusual than someone wearing a, you know, cowboy hat.
All right, let's go to Roger. Hello, Roger.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. What's on your mind?
Actually, I got a number of things. I'll try to make it real quick. Actually, I'm a carry permit holder, but I'm new to it. I didn't get it till I was 50, and that was just a few years ago.
Right.
And I never had guns in the house. I was actually very intimidated of a gun, sprayed them, or whatever. But it was a Aurora, Colorado shooting that prompted me and my wife to actually go out and get handguns. We went through the carry permit process and did it. And that carry permit process made all the difference in the world to me. I knew nothing about guns. I knew nothing about the laws. And without that process, I wouldn't have trusted myself, okay? And it really concerns me that as a state we want to get rid of that process. Now, the other thing is that I think the Lieutenant Governor has a very strong case there, and I think if we look at the different states that have open carry, I think they're more restrictive in where you can carry. And I think that's the case. You'd have to check it. And I think with a carry permit process, we'd be able to have more places where we can carry without restriction. And so we need to really be careful about opening it up to just anybody carrying.
Okay.
So I was thinking about the fact that in terms of the balance between property rights and personal protection, it would seem to me that it would be appropriate that if a business wanted to have a sign saying, you know, no guns, or at least if you carry a gun, you have to carry it concealed because they want to create a certain environment. And I can understand why a property owner would want to deal with the sensibilities of their customers. Not everybody is comfortable with firearms, and we really don't want to disturb the natives. So I could see that there's a balance for that opportunity there.
All right. Well, there's a lot there. All right. So what do you think about what he's saying there?
Well, let's pick up with his last comment about the property owners and posting. You know, I tend to agree with him. If I see a property owner who's got a sign up that says no guns, and it's contrasted with a property owner that says no openly displayed firearms, so that they'll allow you in concealed, you know, those are two entirely different perspectives in my mind. And,
right.
and I encourage, you know, when we go out and talk to citizens groups and talk to the public, we encourage people to understand that just because a citizen might be able to carry a gun doesn't make you a police officer. The gun's there for your self-defense, and you actually hurt your chances of successfully defending yourself if you're wearing it openly. You're better off if it's concealed so that no one knows you have it unless you really need it. Otherwise, you just become the first guy shot. You know, if it's a movie theater kind of situation. Now on the training, he makes a good point. I mean, I'm a big advocate that if you're going to carry a gun, if you're going to drive a car in public, you should have some professional training to be safe and be responsible with something that can cause harm. But that is a separate issue from should the state require it as a condition of exercising the ability to carry a firearm versus the civil law issue of saying if you're going to do it, you need to be able to demonstrate that you are safe and competent in doing so. So I see it as a distinction between the criminal code and the civil code as to whether or not you need the training. And I always tell people, not only do you need training, I'll typically tell people that the training you get to get a permit, if you're at some point in your life ever going to be in a situation where you're involved in a shooting, that's not enough training to defend yourself in a civil case. You want more training, and you want to be able to prove through a paper trail that you had training from professional instructors that knew what they were teaching, and not that you were just going to the gun range and shooting, but that you had professional qualified instructors, because I think that makes a difference to a jury. If you're going to carry a gun, you need to be getting qualified professional training on a regular basis. That's not what Tennessee requires now. We require training one time when you first get your permit, and we don't require anything after that, no matter how old you live to be.
Right, right. So you think it's a wise thing to do to get training, but it shouldn't be mandated?
Correct.
And you think the reason that it continues to be mandated in part is because of the money that it generates?
Oh, it generates a lot of money.
And Tennessee needs money. So we're talking how much, in your opinion?
Well, there was testimony this year in a Senate hearing from Commissioner Gibbons, who's in charge of the part of state government that's over the handgun permitting systems. And he testified that they had excess revenue from the permitting system of over $12 million that the Department of Safety then took and spent on something else. And if you look at the Department of Safety issues annual reports each year on the permitting system, and they talk about how many permits they issued, how many they revoked, the age demographics of the people getting them, that kind of stuff. Well, there's one page in that report that says, you know, we collected, I'm just using, you know, made up numbers for purposes of discussion, we collected $8 million in fees, but it only cost us $5 million to run the system. They don't lose money on this system. They're making money, and they're making a lot of money in the big scheme of things.
It's a very interesting debate. All right, let's go to David. Hello, David.
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, my concern is the constitutional carry. I'm all for it. I think it's a God-given right for anybody to defend themselves. The problem with getting rid of but I would hope that they would still leave a pathway to get some form of permit even on top of outside of constitutional carry, simply because you run into situations when you travel, like people from Vermont, they have the open carry there, constitutional carry, they can carry anywhere they want, but they don't have a license to reciprocate with another state when they go somewhere. So if they travel out of state, they're kind of stuck because there's no way to they don't have a license to have reciprocity with the states they're traveling through.
That's an interesting point. So what about that? If Vermont comes here to Tennessee and it's required in Tennessee, what happens?
Well, it is a very legitimate point. You know, Tennessee's version of reciprocity is a little unique. We honor permits from any other state, but people from Vermont, as the caller pointed out, they can carry in their home state, but because they're not issued permits, they can't carry in Tennessee currently. The version of the bill that we supported this year was carried by Senator Beavers, and it's Senate Bill 250 if you want to look at it. It's on the legislative website. It has an optional permitting system in it, and it's in there specifically for reciprocity. So the bill would have said you don't have to have a permit to carry a gun openly or concealed on your person or in a vehicle. But if you want an optional permit because you want to engage in reciprocity, then our legislation had that provision. The other thing that a lot of people did, and they did it before Tennessee really had a strong permitting law, is there are some states that will issue non-resident permits. So there's a lot of people in Tennessee that at one point in time, they'd figured out this sort of spreadsheet grid, and if they got a non-resident permit from like Florida and Utah and about 3 states, that gave them the maximum number of states they could travel in. And that's become less of an issue in the last decade as states have expanded reciprocity. But there's still a number of states that have non-resident permits.
All right, we have to take a break. We'll come back and we'll get to a lot of calls. So we'll take a break, be back right after this.